And welcome to Mission Unstoppable Part 2 today. Yeah, you just saw me a minute ago, but I'm back. And I have a new guest. Look at her. This is Jenna Martin, and she is the author and creator of Milo and the Wisdom of the Sea. And it's the first in a series of chapter books that are dedicated to teaching children ages 5 through 9 emotional resilience. And we'll talk about what that really is. In the series, it was inspired by Jenna's previous work with children in both educational and clinical settings, where she spent the first part of her career training to become a child and family psychologist. And as it always kind of happens, it also came about because of her own experience with adversity. And we will find out more about that. Jenna has dedicated the past 4 years of her life to a rigorous meditation practice. She's studied intensely with Zen Buddhist teachers and also teaches meditation and other life-wise skills, including creative journaling to adults and children alike. Today, or by day I should say, Jenna is a UX content designer, and she helps to humanize the apps we use every day. You're going to love talking to this young lady. Hello, Jenna.
Hi, thanks for having me.
Thanks for being here. What a beautiful little book. Milo is a delight. He's so sweet, and you just have to fall in love with him.
I'm so glad you said that. That was kind of my goal.
Well, mission accomplished there. Good job. I really enjoyed reading it. I really did. And I can see lots of people, and adults and children alike, really falling in love with this little character. You talk about adversity. We talk about, bullying comes to mind, and just people not feeling good in their bodies and body shaming and all kinds of stuff that happens to young kids, especially earlier and earlier, because they're so self-aware of stuff today,
Yeah.
because of social media. It's difficult to handle those kinds of emotions. Like, you think everything's within the insulation of your family. Usually, you're okay. They love you. But then you go out into the world and people look at you and go, oh, what's wrong with that? How come you got that? What's going on there? If you're secure, you can handle it. If you're not, it can really start to take its toll.
Yeah. Yeah, it's true. So I think like each book, there are 5 books. So this is the first book, and I'm trying to get the other 4 books, but out there. But I think one of the goals was to really help kids understand that bad things are going to happen, right? That's part of life.
Hmm.
I think newer generations kind of get protected a lot from reality, right? But I think like the pandemic kind of brought this to the forefront, like things that are beyond parents' control and society's control are going to happen. And kids need to understand that just like a sea star can lose its arm naturally, right? That's sort of the metaphor here.
Yeah.
That life can happen, right?
Right.
And you have to embrace that that's the human experience. And we
You know,
have
I'm almost going to disagree with you on one thing, and
okay.
let's have a challenge.
Sure.
In that they're insulated, because in some ways, when kids can be cruel virtually, they don't have that same feeling like it's a real thing. It's just like TV.
Yeah.
If I was in front of you, I might not say it to your face, but I can just type anything I want. And
Right.
it's not going to hurt the same, or maybe it will, but
Right.
it's not real. It's not real because I didn't do
Right.
it in
It
front
can
of
be
them.
anonymously cruel, and there's
Yeah,
repercussions. So
yeah,
I think
yeah.
there's the issue of bullying, which is kind of separate from adversity overall.
Right, right,
So like the first book deals a lot with bullying and deals with like, how do I just accept myself and love myself for what I am and for who I am, and kind of explore what that is. But overall, so I picked sea stars because, they lose their arms, and they can actually willingly lose their arms.
right. But they also regenerate, don't they? Yeah.
Exactly. And so they regenerate. And I really want kids to understand that I'm not normalizing bullying, right? I'm
No,
not
no, no,
like
no, no.
human to human adversity like we
Yes.
inflict on others. I think what I want kids to understand is that the human experience itself is sort of created for adversity. Like
Yeah.
we're here for that. Like that's
Right.
just part of what we have to go through.
Our training ground. Yeah. And it's interesting because I'm a grandmother of almost 10 this year. The end of the year, I'll be 10. And I look at these kids, and like the 2-year-olds, my 2-year-old granddaughter, the ego is in play now, and she loves herself. Look in a mirror, look at me, I look beautiful, everything's great. And as parents, previously, parents would say, well, dear, you shouldn't really love yourself. That's kind of not a good trait to have. But it's a great trait to have, because if she doesn't love herself, who's going to love her? I mean, her parents are going to love her, but when you go out into the world, you have to have that self-love in
Right.
order to get through a whole bunch of stuff. Because
Yeah.
most people's problems begin with that they don't have enough self-love. And so here we are, coaches later on in life, teaching people how to love themselves when they
Right.
already did. When they were two, they did it. They did it naturally.
Right. And you have to go back to that state.
Yeah,
To remember like being whole, right? And being feeling
exactly.
good. Yeah. And like trying new things and, doing it even if you're in pain in a sense. So Milo has to cartwheel,
That's right.
right? Later on in the book. I don't want to give it all away, but
No.
ultimately he realizes that what made him different is actually what brings him the most joy, and he
And
has
so
to.
that self identity, portion, um, realizing, who what you love, and that's really important too, because as I'm a coach and later on in coaching, when I coach people, probably the first thing I talk about are what do you value, and the idea of who are you, what do you love, and so many people influence who that is and what you love that sometimes people don't know. Is it? Cause, and I'll say, well, is are you afraid of something because you're really afraid of it, or because somebody told you you should be afraid of it? Like, did your mom scream at spiders, so you're afraid of spiders? But did you ever really look at one and go, that doesn't really scare me, or oh my god, it scares me? Like, people just, the input's there, but you don't really challenge the input,
Yeah, it's
right?
true. It's so
Yeah.
true. Yeah, I was actually talking to this really lovely college student. I'm kind of doing some coaching with her, some resiliency coaching, and I said, "Well, what do you love?" And she said, "I don't know." And it kind of reminded me of The Runaway Bride when Julia Roberts has to figure out how she likes her eggs or how she likes her toast.
Yeah. Yeah. Yeah.
Like you have to go back to those simple things, and I think with kids, it's like, it's not that hard yet, right? Like they don't have to remember what they love. They're still in that phase. I think it's teaching them the resilience to hold on to that, to
Yeah.
not
Yeah.
let like society's lens change their own reflection of themselves,
That reminded me, my son called, his friends used to tease him because he called me. He says, Mom, what do I like to eat? They're at a restaurant. They go, what does I like to eat? And so they tease him for his whole life now, like he's in his 30s. But, it's like, call your mom, ask her what you like. Yeah. But it's funny, right? It's funny, but
Yeah.
it's true. Like, I don't know. You don't know what you like. But he
Yeah.
knew what he liked, but he just didn't know what it was called.
Didn't know what the words were, right?
Yeah, exactly.
Not what
Exactly.
they were.
Yeah.
Yeah.
But resiliency is super important. I mean, I talk about it that because I went through something. Tell us what you went through, if you can. Can you share that?
I can, some of it, I
Yeah.
think. Um, so I, so a lot of things I have to say, like a laundry list of things that would have probably knocked most people down forever. Um, and I don't want to like, again, I don't think I can bullet point them. I think people would probably get overwhelmed. They'd be like, how'd you get through that? Or how are you still here?
I would
But
like to know that, I'm sure.
yeah, and
Yeah. Yeah.
someday I'll probably write a book about it. There's
Right.
some of it on my blog, but so the impetus for this was my identical twin died
Oh, I didn't know that.
in
Okay.
2006, and it
I'm
felt like I
sorry. A limb.
literally lost a part of me.
Yeah.
Um, and during that time when I was just, I was leveled,
I'm sure you were.
completely
Yeah.
leveled. She was half of me. Yeah.
Yeah. I'm sorry.
It's okay. But I think like what I realized at that time, I was trying to heal, right? I'm very big into like, how do I heal myself? How do I get back to, and I kind of had to figure out who I was without her. And
Hmm.
so one of the inspirations, I think we find healing in different places. And for me, it was, okay, what's my totem now? Like, what can I draw from? Who in nature loses parts of themselves and becomes whole again? And that's kind of how Milo was born. I was like,
Okay.
oh my God, sea stars do it all the time. And maybe that sounds reductionistic to people, but I think wherever you can get healing and inspiration, go for it. If it's
Absolutely.
a star, if it's a prayer flag, if
Hey,
it's,
you could have turned it. You could have turned to alcohol, right? You turned to sea stars. I mean,
I did, right,
way
right.
healthier, way healthier.
Yeah. And, I
Good
think,
job.
I've been meditating for 40 years. I've been journaling since I'm 7. I've been using all of those tools that help you get through what I call the nuclear holocaust of my life, you know?
Right.
So I think that was like, I already had the skills, and I was already working on that, but you know, nothing prepares you for losing an identical twin.
No.
And you know, she passed because of all the trauma we went through. She took her life.
Oh, geez, I'm sorry.
Yeah, it stinks.
Yeah.
Um,
Yeah,
and
it does.
there's so much stigma around that, you know, like when somebody dies, the first question people ask is, how did they die? You know, and it's a lot safer to say, oh, they had cancer or they died of old age or there was an accident, you know, but when somebody hears suicide, they don't know what to do with that
Did
information.
she tell you? Did she talk to you?
Right now or before it
No,
happened?
before.
Oh yeah, I was on call for 11 years.
Okay.
I was on call for 11 years. And, you know, like at some point, I just had to be like, I love you, but I also need to live, you know?
Just because you're a twin, you're not responsible. I'm a mother of twins, and I've got twin grandchildren, identical twin boys. I understand, the twin connection, but I also understand that they're each their own identity.
Yes. And we were always very unique. And I think that was the one thing I really appreciate about my mother's parenting.
She didn't
Um,
dress you the same.
I think when we were really
Little,
little,
yeah, of
and,
course,
you
it's
know,
cute.
there was yeah, it was cute. And then, you know, she was like, you guys are your own people and I want you to figure that out. Right.
Yeah,
So
yeah,
you can ask the people we grew up with. They were always like, even though we looked alike, they knew that I was a writer, I was a performer, you know, like it was clear. I don't think my sister ever really found that as much as I did, you know. But Milo was born from adversity.
Are you the older twin?
What?
Were you the older one? Or the
Yes.
young? Yeah,
I was a minute older.
yeah,
Yeah. But, you know, so it's funny because I think sometimes when things happen in your life, they can become the thing that helps others.
yeah. Absolutely, very often, and that's why I said, when I saw that, I go, okay, that makes sense because those who go through things find ways to fix things, and then
Yeah,
they become teachers for others.
they do. And I definitely feel if you had asked me if I felt this way when she died in 2006,
Of course
I would
not.
have probably flipped you off, right? Like how could this become the thing that I give back to humanity? But it
Yeah,
has, you know, it's become, and also like it's so much more than a book, you know, at some point
yeah,
I really want a nonprofit. I want kids all over the world to learn these skills, you know, because we're in the 21st century. Climate change, things like COVID, you know, things are going to continue to happen. And I think you can teach kids how to be the voice in their own heads, right? Like
yeah,
when Milo learns to embrace the wisdom of the sea, it becomes his voice, right?
yeah,
So, you know, we can teach kids how to trust their bodies, how to trust themselves, how to use their bodies to move big emotions. You know, all of those things we need. Things are not simple right now, you know?
yeah. And I wonder what's happening with these. Like I look at my younger grandchildren who don't have anyone to play with. They have never had anyone really to play with because COVID started. They haven't even met half their family. Like
Yeah.
it's what's happening to them and their development without playing with. My granddaughter said, oh, "There's my friend. Those are my friends out there in the field there at the park." She doesn't know them, but those are my friends, right?
Right.
Friends you
So,
don't know. They could be my friends if I was allowed to play with them. But and it's so sad. Like it's so sad that this horrible thing is with us. But what happens to them and their development? I wonder. I don't know. It's
yeah, and we don't really know what the long
no.
term effects are, but here's the good news. And this is what I want people to understand: you can regenerate,
Yeah,
right? You
yeah,
can grow, you can accept the fact that life has suffering, you know?
yeah,
I think that's the lesson that I want. That's the message. You know, like life is hard. Let's just embrace that, right? And that comes in a variety of flavors.
yeah.
You know, whether it's a pandemic and we all have to wear masks and kids don't even know what facial recognition is for a while and we have to work on that with them, you know?
Right, right.
Or, you know, kids don't know how to talk about their emotions because they don't have the language and things like COVID happen and they don't know how to say like I feel lonely or I feel scared, right? So how do you help them do that? I think there's so many ways that even though things are hard, we can find the good, right?
Right.
Because I think it's really embracing the fact that this is not irreparable. You
Yeah,
know, like we can grow, we can find the good stuff even when things are hard, you know?
absolutely. Yeah, for sure,
Yeah,
for sure.
that's kind of, and I know that people say, oh, Jenna, you're so Pollyanna-ish,
No,
but
I don't think that is. You
yeah,
have to. I mean, it's it's really a decision that we make. Do we want to be happy or sad? How do I want my day to be? Like my husband always says, you're fairies and pixie dust and whatever. I go, but that's the way I choose to approach the people that I meet, right? Like they're good. Everybody's good until they're not.
right.
Why would they be horrible? Like I'd rather meet nice people. So I'm going to go out and I'm going to meet everybody who's going to be nice and I'm going to treat them like they're nice. And usually they treat me back the same way. And if they don't, well, then, you move on. But you don't, it's a choice that you get to make for yourself how
Yeah,
you want to live in the world, right? Even though the world around you is in chaos. But change happens best in chaos. So it
yeah,
makes it easier for us to change when there's chaos because
yeah,
then it's like, we can't get stuck. So that's a
yeah.
good thing. That's a good thing.
I think so. You know, I don't think I could write kids' books and help kids if I was cynical and
Yeah, be
woke up
morose.
woke up every day thinking the worst of society and of people. You know, I think we're
So
all
will they all be under the resilient theme, or do you have a different theme for each book?
um yes. So well, you know, it's about building those skills in variety of situations, and Milo evolves with each book.
Okay.
So it's like these basic skills build on his ability to expand his capacity to help himself and help the world in turn. So
Right.
it really is a hero's journey. I always tell people it's like Harry Potter meets like Finding Nemo meets Charlotte's Web. You know, it has like all of those elements. Um, but yeah, Milo evolves. I can't give it away, but I'll just
Yeah.
say he doesn't stay a sea star.
Oh, okay. I like that Milo met a mermaid who taught him some healing, and so that is a good thing. Maybe who knows? Maybe he'll become a healer. Um, I love the illustration. It's very pretty.
Thank you.
Who did the illustration in the book?
She's in the UK. Her name is Izzy. It was a work for hire situation, and I
Yeah.
said, do you want credit? And she was like, no, it's fine. I think she's moved on to other things, so I'm open to finding another illustrator. She
Yeah.
has kids, and she's kind of like, I want to be a full-time mom, and I don't know if I want to,
Yeah.
illustrate.
Yeah.
But I was so grateful to her for creating something like making this happen.
Yeah. Show it. Show the inside.
Oh,
I meant
sure.
to bring my book up and I left it downstairs.
I'll show the happy picture first.
Yeah.
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 Milo cartwheeling with his best friend, Polly.
She's a seahorse. I love seahorses.
Me too. Me too. Yeah. It's unique because obviously sea stars and, seahorses don't mix.
Sure.
So there is some science, but there's also a lot of magic in this book, as you know. So
Yeah.
yeah. It's not, but I did actually work with a marine biologist on some of this.
Cool.
Yeah, at CU in Boulder in Colorado where I lived. But this is
Yeah.
Anton, the wise octopus. Yeah,
Yeah. These are really cute. They're cute. They're cute characters.
yeah. But it's fun. It's a fun series. I don't know what's next after this. Obviously, like once they're all out in the world, I have a dream about like Disney and Pixar and cartoon series and the nonprofit.
Stuffies and stuffies.
Yeah, and stuffies and jewelry and the possibilities are endless. With
For
the
sure.
nonprofit, I would love for all of that to actually fund to the nonprofit,
Right.
you know, so that
And so tell us about the nonprofit.
so it would be called the Milo Way, and you know why because you read the first book. But it's basically the idea that kids have to learn how to be in the world in a way that they can be right as individuals. Like we have to teach them who they are and help them love themselves and be in the world their way, not the way that other people are, not the way that society wants them to be, but really help them flourish as their own unique person. So what I would like to do is have the nonprofit teach these things. And
Mm-hmm.
there would be like a university for kids. And ultimately, I kind of like, I don't know if have you been to Northern California?
Yep. Mm-hmm.
Oh, cool. There's this spa in this kind of hippy dippy town near It's near Sonoma. It's in Sonoma County, and there's this really cool spa where you can like get massages and but it's like this Zen garden. It's absolutely beautiful. I kind of see that like for kids and families to come and just get a reprieve from the world, you know. Maybe they're dealing with grief, maybe they're dealing with COVID, like whatever it is, whatever the adversity is, to just be able to come, take a break, learn some of these skills, you know, have parents come, you know, just have like this retreat center where they get all this good stuff, you know.
Right, right.
Yeah, that's kind of how
Nice.
I see
That's
it.
very nice. It's a good goal and a good dream, and I really hope that you get there.
I
And you will
will.
get there if you want. Yeah.
It took me 10 years to get this out into the world and to write 5 books. I'm a very determined woman.
I
So
can see that. Yeah.
happen. Yeah, I think dreams are they're not just ideas, they're action plans. Like they're
Yeah,
things you put into place to achieve it. So,
that's right.
yeah. So, I will. I mean, hopefully, you know, like good people who are interested, you know, can show up and help me do that, but I know they're out there.
They are. Yeah. It's fantastic.
Yeah.
So next steps is when's book one just came out, but when's book
A
two
little
gonna
while ago. Yeah. I'm working on it. I need to get some things in order with Illustrator and, you know, but probably in the next year. That's definitely the goal. I would love to just get all 4 out there, but that's a ton of work.
It
So,
is. Yeah.
yeah. Well, you know, because you're an author,
Yeah.
you know, and
Yeah.
self-publishing is hard because you're doing it all yourself. So, you know, like I'm fine with it, but and I'm also, you know, even when Izzy was working on this, I was very involved in
Of
like,
course.
you know,
It's your baby.
well, yeah, it's like, well, why is the sea anemone this shape? You know, we need rounded corners here, you know, and I think also because I'm, you know, in app development, I'm a designer, like I'm very oriented in that way. So
Yeah.
a little bit OCD, I think.
What yeah, I maybe that's why she's not doing it anymore.
I knew you were going to say that. Oh my God.
Just
It wasn't
teasing,
that
yeah.
bad, I swear.
I'm just teasing you. Oh, geez. That's great.
Yeah. So probably in the next year, I would say. My goal is by next summer.
So you started off, looking at family and children counseling and
Yeah.
psychology, and why did you move away from that?
A couple of reasons. I felt I didn't like the whole idea of labeling kids with things like ADD and that sort of following them and affecting their self-esteem in a lifelong way. And
Hmm.
I feel that psychology kind of misses the spiritual aspect of life. You know, not everything can be boiled down to a pathology. You know, sometimes it's actually something you're going through on a spiritual level that can't be quantified or labeled. And I think a lot of that came from actively meditating and kind of learning in my own spiritual path. So, and I just felt like I was more of a creator than a psychologist. I needed to explore my life as a writer, as a digital creator, you know, and I got really involved in the nonprofit world. And somehow all of those things sort of combined to where I am now. And if I'd stayed on that journey, that wouldn't have ever happened. You
Yeah.
know, I needed to find the fullness of me, and I wouldn't have been able to find that in psychology. You know, I would have been very in this very little box, and I don't fit in that box. But, but I think there's some really valuable things about it, and I'm glad that I went through some of that training.
Yeah,
Um,
absolutely.
yeah, it's really helpful. And I mean, a lot of the book is written from a therapeutic in a way, like using some of those therapeutic tools.
Yeah.
Yeah, it's like I kind of tell people when you feed kids and you put like broccoli in the pasta, then but they can't see it, you know, like this book is a lot about like how do you get
Yes.
all of that, all of those tools and all of that wisdom into a book without kids actually realizing they're getting help, you know?
Yeah. Yeah. Yeah.
Yeah.
I started off in that world too. And in journalism, I did a double, but then I did spiritual psychotherapy, which is very interesting too. So it's all you could do anything you want, but
Yeah.
I
That's
think
true.
when you want to change something, you got to be there to do it. So
Yeah.
yeah,
That's true. Yeah, I could see that.
so
Yeah.
I mean, you're doing it in a different way. You're changing the
Yeah.
industry in a different way,
Yeah.
out of that box that you didn't want to be in. So that's awesome.
Right.
That's awesome.
Yeah.
Well, Thank you so much for coming. Is there anything else you wanted to tell? Oh, you can give us your website again and how people can get in touch with you, and if they want to help you on your journey, that
Yeah.
too. How to
So the
get
website is themiloway.com, and you can reach me through there. There's an email. But if you want to do it personally, you can do milocStar@gmail.com. So it's,
Oh, he has
Milo.
his own email too.
He has his own email. What else? I'm on Twitter. So J Martin Bloom on Twitter. I'm on Instagram, Milo C Wisdom. Where else am I? I think that's good enough, right?
Yeah,
Yeah.
absolutely. Yeah.
Yeah. Yeah.
And do you have a Facebook group or anything?
I don't have a Facebook group. I should start one. I don't know. I'm bad at that stuff on Facebook, but I could start one. I could start a Facebook
Well,
group.
maybe somebody wants to start one for you.
Yeah, that would be even better. One less thing I have to manage would be.
There you go. Ask for help. That's the way to
Yes,
go.
for
Ask
sure.
for help. Yeah, people, when people are really good at doing something, it's easy for them to do it. So if people want to volunteer to do the things that are easy for them, it makes it better for everybody.
Yeah, I'm all over it. And if you guys know another illustrator that can semi emulate this, that would be awesome too.
Yeah, I was looking for an illustrator too. It's not cheap
No,
to do a kid's book at all.
not even a little bit.
Not even a little bit. Yeah, I know. I know. I wrote a little kids book, and even I'm an artist, but I didn't want to, do it myself. And I'm like, wow, that's a lot of money.
It is. That's why it's like, well, I'll see if I can get this out in a year.
Yeah, yeah.
But funding is welcome too, by the way. If there's
That's
somebody
yeah. You might be able to do, crowdfunding
yeah.
for that, or a student who can do. I mean, somebody could probably emulate that on a, computer.
Yeah. Yeah, digitally. Yeah. That's true. You never
Yeah.
know.
Yeah.
Yeah.
I'm a big fan of reaching out to universities and students who need credit and professors who want to give credit for
Yeah.
things done.
Yeah. That's a good
But you
idea.
never know.
Yeah, you never do. You have to try everything.
But actually, I do, and bear with me, Facebook, for 1 second. I do know another children's author who has pretty good illustrator. I'll reach out and ask him. I'll get back to you.
That sounds good. Thanks,
Yeah.
Frankie.
You're very welcome. Well, thank you so much, Jenna, for taking the time out to share Milo and his wisdom of the sea, and helping the kids and the families that need to understand what it is, how to get through adversity, because it is a skill. I think it's going to become the #1 skill.
Well, I'm there for that. I'm there for that entire journey. I would love to be part of that movement. I mean, there isn't really a movement right now. There's the ACEs movement. This is a little different.
Yeah.
Yeah, it's a little different.
All right. Well, say goodbye, Facebook. Goodbye, Facebook. We're
Okay,
gonna
bye,
leave you.
guys.